Welcome to the Geostrategic Podcast.
Hello, everyone. I thank you so much for watching or listening to the podcast today. We have a massive topic to cover. Forget everything you know about stealth development. While the world said Turkey couldn't do it alone after the F-35 ban, Ankara just did the unthinkable. 3. KAAN. Prototypes. Simultaneously, this isn't just a flight test, it's a geopolitical middle finger to the status quo. From the Mediterranean to the Indo-Pacific, the procurement calculus has just been shredded. Is the U.S. air monopoly officially over? If you're a fan of high-tech defense, smash that like button, share this with a fellow gearhead, and hit subscribe so you never miss a global power shift. But I want to hear from you. This is a safe space for the real tech nerds. Is the KAAN a genuine F-35 feature, or is the engine still an Achilles heel? Don't hold back, drop your wildest takes in the comments right now. I'm jumping in to read them all. Let's get into it.
It really is a watershed moment, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Because when you look at that latest footage from February 21st, 2026, you aren't just seeing, metal on a runway. You were seeing a complete doctrinal shift.
Right, and just to set the scene for you, if you haven't caught the visuals on this yet, this was exactly 2 years after the maiden flight of that first demonstrator.
Yeah, exactly 2 years.
And suddenly, there they are, P0, P1, and P2. 3 distinct prototypes just sitting on the tarmac together.
Looking like a fleet, not a science experiment.
Which is wild, right?
It is. And that visual is heavily designed to send a very specific message. Because in the world of aerospace engineering, especially with fifth-generation stealth fighters, the standard procedure is sequential development.
Meaning you build one plane, you fly it.
You fly it, you break it, you learn from it, and then you build the second one. It's a very slow, very risk-averse process.
Which makes total sense because these things cost an absolute fortune.
Right. You don't want to build 3 mistakes at the exact same time.
If you get the aerodynamics wrong on that first one, you really don't want 2 more sitting in the hangar with the exact same flaw.
Precisely. That is the traditional logic. But Turkey has entirely flipped that script. They've moved to a parallel development doctrine.
Parallel meaning they're doing it all at once.
Exactly. Building and testing multiple frames simultaneously. So the P0, the one that flew back in February 2024, that was essentially the aerodynamic validator.
Just to prove the thing can actually stay in the air?
Right, to prove it flies. But P1 and P2, these are completely different beasts. They're there for system maturation, structural refinement, and avionics integration.
So why take the risk? I mean, why build 3 at once if standard procedure says take it slow? Is this just about bragging rights, or is there actual strategy here?
Well, it's because they simply don't have the luxury of time. You have to remember the context we're operating in here. This acts as a strategic hedge.
Right. Going back to 2019.
Yeah. Following Turkey's removal from the U.S.-led F-35 consortium in 2019, which, as we know, was triggered by their purchase of the Russian S-400 air defense system, Ankara was left in a really precarious position.
They were effectively kicked out of the club. And that wasn't just a minor diplomatic spat. That was a fundamental disconnect from their future air power plans.
They were. And that removal acted as a sort of catalytic shock. It shifted billions of dollars and massive institutional focus directly toward this national fighter aircraft program.
How much are we talking about?
We are talking about a program cost exceeding $40 billion US.
Wow.
Yeah. The ultimate goal is a totally sovereign defense posture. So, by showing 3 frames at once, Ankara is trying to compress the timeline. They want to reach operational capability by the end of the decade.
That is incredibly aggressive. Usually in defense contracting, timelines are suggestions, not deadlines. Moving this fast suggests a level of urgency that is pretty rare.
It is rare. But it's also a powerful signal to skeptics and, more importantly, to potential buyers that the program is stable. It's not just a concept anymore. It's an industrial reality. They're telling the world, we aren't just trying to build a plane. We are building an assembly line.
Okay, let's unpack the hardware itself. If we were doing a walk around of these new prototypes, P1 and P2 specifically, what are we actually looking at? What makes them different from that first demo plane?
The devil really is in the details here, and the details are all about invisible geometry. Visual analysis of the new frames reveals some subtle but critical modifications aimed at stealth and sensing. First, look at the nose section. It's noticeably expanded.
A bigger nose? Wait, usually you want things smaller for stealth, don't you? Doesn't a bigger surface area reflect more radar waves?
Well, not necessarily if the shaping is correct. In this case, that expanded nose is likely optimized to house a larger volume AESA radar. A bigger nose means you can fit more transmit and receive modules.
Okay, let's pause on ASA for a second. We hear that acronym thrown around constantly in these deep dives. What is the practical difference between that and an old-school radar?
Think of an old mechanical radar like a flashlight in a dark room. You have to physically turn the flashlight to see what's in the corner. An AESA radar is like a wall of 1,000 tiny laser pointers that can all point in different directions instantly without the wall ever moving.
Oh, that makes sense. So it sweeps much faster.
Faster, it sees further, and it's significantly harder to jam. But, and here's the catch, more modules mean more heat.
And heat management is always the silent killer in electronics.
Absolutely. So the larger nose helps manage the thermal load those high-capacity modules generate. Then, moving down the side, you have the cheek fairings.
The cheeks.
Yeah, these slight bulges hint at space for side-looking AESA radars. This is huge for expanding the sensor coverage arc. It means the pilot can essentially see to the sides without actually turning the aircraft.
That is cool. It's like having eyes in the back of your head, or at least on your ears. It allows you to fly past a target and still track it without banking the plane and exposing your belly to enemy radar.
Exactly. It maintains the stealth profile while constantly feeding data into the network.
What about the air inlets? I noticed they looked a bit different in the new footage as well.
They have been repositioned. This is purely aerodynamic optimization. They're designed to improve airflow during high-angle maneuvers, think dogfighting, where the air is coming in at weird angles, but also to support supercruise without afterburners.
Supercruise, just to clarify for everyone, that's flying faster than the speed of sound without dumping raw fuel into the exhaust, right?
Correct. It's essential for a fifth-gen fighter to cover ground quickly without lighting up like a Christmas tree on infrared sensors. When you hit the afterburner, you become a massive heat beacon. If the KAAN can hit Mach 1.5 without that, it stays hidden thermally.
And speaking of the back end, the vertical stabilizers have been adjusted too.
Yeah, that's a real balancing act between reducing the radar cross-section, basically making the plane look smaller to enemy radar, and integrating those twin engine exhausts. The tail is often a major reflector for radar, so getting those angles right is pure math, not art.
Now, you can't have a fighter jet without weapons. But to be stealthy, you can't exactly strap missiles to the wings, can you? That ruins the invisible geometry you were just talking about.
Exactly. External stores are a stealth killer, so the internal volume is key. These new prototypes are actively refining that internal space to carry the Gukdosan and Bosdosan air-to-air missiles.
The indigenous missiles.
Right. The whole doctrine here is detect first, shoot first. You want to open the bay, fire, and close it before the enemy even knows you're in the airspace.
And the skin of the aircraft itself.
Advanced composite materials and radar-absorbing coatings. The latest info suggests the forward invisibility estimates basically how invisible it is from head-on are getting very close to Western benchmarks.
Okay, so it looks the part. It's got the stealth, the sensors, the weapons bays. But here is where it gets really interesting and potentially problematic. We teased this in the intro. Is the engine an Achilles heel?
This is the critical question. And the short answer is currently yes. It is the main vulnerability of the entire program.
Let's break that down. What's powering these three prototypes right now?
Right now, the KAAN is using US-made General Electric F-110GE 129 engines. These pump out approximately 29,500 pounds of thrust each.
And on paper, that performance is pretty good, right? I mean, we're hearing about Mach 1.8 supercruise and a top speed of Mach 2.0. That doesn't sound like a problem. That sounds like a hot rod.
Oh, the performance isn't the problem at all. The F-110 is a proven workhorse engine. It powers the F-16. The problem is what we call the geopolitical trap.
Ah, the export licenses.
Exactly. Access to these engines depends entirely on U.S. export licenses. And as we discussed with the S-400 fallout, those relations are volatile, to say the least.
So if the U.S. Congress decides to tighten those licenses, or if diplomatic relations take a nosedive, the whole program essentially grinds to a halt.
Effectively, yes. If they can't get the engines, they can't build the production models, they can't test at scale, and they certainly can't export them to other countries. It shifts the risk from engineering to politics. You can be the best aerospace engineer in Ankara, but you can't engineer your way out of a State Department embargo.
But there is a plan B, right? A local engine.
There is, but it's a very long-term play. They are developing the indigenous TF-35,000 engine, which is targeting 35,000 pounds of thrust. That would actually be quite a bit more powerful than the current GE engines.
That sounds great. More power, total sovereign control. When do we get it?
That's the catch. Not until the early 2030s.
Oof. The target for the jet's operational capability is 2028, but the engine is 2030s.
Exactly. This creates a highly dangerous transition period. Delays in local engine maturation, which are super common, because building a high-performance jet engine from scratch is incredibly difficult, could push the initial operational capability well past that 2028 target.
Creating a huge gap.
Right. It's often referred to as the valley of death for the program. The transition is non-negotiable for true sovereignty, but the gap between the ambition and the timeline is where the real risk lies.
So they are racing against the clock to close that gap. Let's pivot from the engines to the brains, because a fifth-gen fighter isn't just about speed, it's about data.
It is the central nervous system of the aircraft. In the KAAN, this is a Asolsen's local avionics suite, which is anchored by the MURAD AESA radar.
I keep seeing GNM mentioned with this radar. Gallium nitride. It sounds like something straight out of Star Trek. What does that actually mean for the pilot sitting in the cockpit?
Gallium nitride is a next-generation semiconductor technology. Compared to older radar tech, it offers much better heat resistance and power density.
So it runs hotter and pushes more power.
Yes, which means you can pump more energy into the radar signal without melting the system. That translates directly to better detection ranges and better jamming resistance. It's basically like upgrading from a dial-up connection to fiber optic in terms of signal integrity and raw power.
So it's stronger and tougher.
Right. But it's not just the radar. It's about total situational awareness. The suite includes an infrared search and track system, or IRST, a distributed aperture system, which is basically cameras all over the plane stitching together a seamless 360-degree view, and AI-based sensor fusion.
Sensor fusion is the big buzzword here. But in practice, does that mean the pilot just sees a neat little box that says, shoot here?
Almost. In a modern dogfight, a pilot is totally overwhelmed with data. Radar blips, heat signatures, threat warnings, fuel status, wingman positions. The AI filters all of that chaotic data and presents a simplified, prioritized picture. It vastly reduces the pilot's cognitive burden. We're talking about the ability to track targets over 200 kilometers away and instantly share that data with other friendly units.
That's the network-centric warfare piece. The plane is just one node in a much bigger web.
Precisely. It's a flying supercomputer.
All right, let's zoom out to the global map. We've looked at the metal, the engine, and the computer. But the whole premise of this deep dive is about the global air power shift. Why does a Turkish jet shake up the procurement calculus from the Mediterranean all the way to the Pacific?
It comes down to two very simple things: price and strings.
Let's talk money first.
The latest info estimates the KAAN will cost between 80 and 100 million US dollars per unit. Compare that to the F-35, which sits around $110 million, depending on the variant.
So it's cheaper, but not exactly bargain bin cheap. It's still a massive national investment.
It is, but the value proposition isn't just the price tag, it's the strings.
Yeah.
This is the crucial geostrategic pivot. Many nations want fifth-generation technology, the stealth, the sensor fusion, the situational awareness, but they flat out don't want to be tied to the Western political ecosystem and its constraints.
The freedom market. The idea that you buy the jet and you actually own it, rather than just leasing the right to use it under specific conditions.
Exactly. When you buy U.S. hardware, it almost always comes with strict end-user agreements. You can't use this in this conflict, or you can't deploy this radar here. Look at the potential buyers mentioned in the recent updates. Indonesia is highly interested in 48 units. Why?
Let me guess, offsets.
Yes. They are attracted by the modular design and the industrial offsets. They want to be partners, not just customers. They want to build their own industrial base alongside it.
And then you have Pakistan.
Pakistan views the KA as a strategic way to diversify away from Western sources. It perfectly fits their vision to diversify procurement, and it integrates seamlessly with their existing JF-17 ecosystem. For them, it's about operational independence. If diplomatic ties with the West sour, their air force doesn't suddenly get grounded.
We've also seen mentions of Azerbaijan and various Gulf nations looking into it.
Again, they're looking for platforms with freedom of operational use. This is exactly where the U.S. monopoly starts to fracture. If Turkey can offer a 90% solution, 90% of the capability of an F-35, with 0% of the political strings, that is a massive disruption to the global arms market.
But there is a regional rivalry driving this too, right? Much closer to home for Turkey.
Yes, the Eastern Mediterranean. Greece has moved forward with acquiring the F-35. This fundamentally changes the air balance in the region. It essentially forces Turkey to accelerate the KAAN program to counterbalance that air superiority. They absolutely need a stealth platform to match the stealth platform next door. It's a classic security dilemma.
And this is a massive, but we have to circle back to the engine. We can't escape it.
We can't. Export success depends entirely on the engine. If the interim engines, those U.S.-made GE ones, are restricted, Turkey legally cannot sell the planes to third parties until their local engine is fully ready. The entire export strategy is held hostage by that one component. You can sell the idea of freedom all day long, but if the engine is American, the U.S. still holds the keys.
That is a wildly precarious position to be in.
It is. The ambition to reshape the global market is clearly there, but the execution relies on solving that single technical and political hurdle.
So looking ahead, the timeline remains incredibly aggressive. We've got P1 flying in April or May of 2026, P2 following right behind in July or August, and the ultimate target is 20 Block 10 aircraft by 2029.
It's a sprint. There's simply no other way to describe it.
What's the final takeaway here? What should we be thinking about as we watch this all unfold?
I think the provocative thought to leave you with is this. The KAAN represents a total shift from asset purchase to national capacity building. Turkey isn't just trying to buy a plane, they're trying to build an entire aerospace industry from scratch. But they're working with a defense budget of around $15 billion. They have to balance the K with the Alti tank, the Hurjet, and dozens of other projects.
That's a lot of very expensive slices from a limited pie.
Exactly. Can Ankara maintain the fiscal discipline to actually finish the job? The ambition is undeniable, but execution is the ultimate test. It's one thing to build 3 prototypes. It's a completely different challenge to sustain a fleet.
And for you listening, this matters because it completely changes the escalation control models and potential flashpoints from the Asian to the Indo-Pacific. If more actors have stealth and sensor fusion without the traditional diplomatic leashes, the world gets a lot more unpredictable.
It certainly does.
Thank you all for listening or watching. We will be tracking the KAN's progress closely. Be sure to check out the other deep dives in our network for more insights into global defense tech. Stay curious, and we'll see you next time.